Hey, Moneymakers, welcome back to another episode of Taking Stock Live. I'm Kalilah Reynolds, and it is time to bring you all the latest business news and tell you how it will affect you and your money. We are in the month of February, one of 12 months for 2025 down already. And now we are in the love month. We're in my month. V-Day coming up. Hey. Well, tonight we are going to be talking to the new boss of Proven, Johann Heaven, finding out his strategy for the company and what's coming up in 2025 and beyond for Proven. And we're also going to be looking at some other things that are happening around the world and in Jamaica when we get into our Analysts section. But for now, let me know in the comments what part of Jamaica or what part of the world are you joining us from? Let me know in the chat. And of course, come on, let's get this money. On this episode of Taking Stock, Proven has a new boss. Who is he and what plans does he have for the business? Johann Heaven joins us. And the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. There have been a lot of leadership changes at financial institutions. What do they mean for you and your money? We'll discuss.
But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Grace Kennedy says it's finalizing plans to launch Catherine's Peak Water in the Cayman Islands later this year. GK recently acquired the remaining 30% stake in Catherine's Peak Bottling, bringing its ownership to 100%. GK has been slowly building its presence in the bottled water industry since its initial investment in Catherine's Peak in 2018. The company also acquired 876 Spring Water in 2021 and manufacturing company Unibev in 2023. GK said the company expects to begin exporting to the Cayman Islands in 2025. It also anticipates new territories soon. Jamaica's oil refinery Petrodram has secured a $90 million deal to export fuel to Trinidad and Tobago. Petrodram General Manager Telroy Morgan says the company will ship between 60 and 90,000 barrels of fuel per month to Trinidad. Trinidad's own oil refinery Petrotrin shut down in 2019. Minister of Energy Darrell Vaz said the deal is expected to provide a significant boost to Jamaica's exports. The future of the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, was tossed in the air on Monday following a surprise announcement from head of the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk. According to White House officials, Musk is a special government employee and a close advisor to President Donald Trump. The billionaire was tasked with improving the U.S.'s efficiency. Musk said that USAID will be shutting down as part of his radical plan to shrink government spending. USAID is the aid arm of U.S. foreign policy. It funds health and emergency programs in 120 countries. The agency reportedly has an annual budget of $50 billion. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said he's taken temporary control of the agency while it is folded into the U.S. Department of State. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says he will hold off on imposing a 25% tax on imports from Canada and Mexico for the next 30 days. The news follows threats of retaliatory taxes by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Ontario, Canada's most populous province, had also promised to ban American companies from receiving provincial government contracts if the tariffs were imposed. Trump reportedly agreed to pause the tariffs after Trudeau agreed to reinforce his country's border with the U.S. to clamp down on migration and the flow of fentanyl. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum also agreed to reinforce the northern border with troops. In return, the U.S. would limit the flow of guns into Mexico.
What's Hot was brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Not long ago, I asked how many of you would be willing to pay to watch Taking Stock? And a lot of you responded that you would pay, but some of you begged me to keep it free. And I get it. Everyone goes through financial challenges, and I want as many people to access this information as possible. So I've decided to give you the option to make a donation and help to keep Taking Stock free. Support us at patreon.com/Kalilah Ray. The link is in the description. Welcome back. Welcome back. Let me see who we have in the house who is joining us. We got Dwight from Spanish Town, always in the house. Welcome back, Dwight. Love having you. We have Unbothered saying early bird in the house. Earl is in Helsha. Kimberly saying good night. Learn, Grow, Invest saying good night. Humble Boss also saying good night. Moneymakers and the Grill Native in the building. Fitzroy joining us from Silent Hill in Clarendon. Scotty is a Kingstonian in the building. We got Philip, Jamaican in TCI in the house. Learn, Grow, Invest wishing me a happy 30th birthday when it comes. How did you know my age? Learn, Grow, Invest. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Unbothered is asking about Silent Hill. We have Dwayne in NYC. We have Noreen all the way in Belize. Hi, Noreen. What's it like in Belize right now? Tavares is a beginner checking in. Welcome, Tavares. Love to have you. Strong Link is tuning in from Manor Park. Oren is in Ocho Rios. And Kish saying hello, Raquel. Reminding everybody, as usual, to like the video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. You know the drill. Well, right about now, it is time for us to introduce our guest of the evening. We actually have two guests this evening, but in this segment, we are talking to Johann Heaven, the brand new CEO of Proven. So welcome to Taking Stock. Johann, your first time in this capacity.
Yes. Hi, Kalilah. Thank you so much for having me. Taking Stock has a special place in our heart. We joined you from the beginning. So, man, I'm really happy to see where it has been.
I spoke to you way back when we had just started. I had interviewed you probably on Money Mondays, and we were still doing Money Mondays.
Right.
And now here you are as the big man over at Proven. So congratulations on your appointment as CEO.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So let's get some background about you. So I've met you before. Our viewers have not met you. And so now we want to know, who is Johann Heaven? Like, where did you grow up? What did you study? What did you do before Proven?
Right. So I've been in the financial industry for, the last 25 years. I started off my career at Daring Bunting and Golding. So I was actually hired by Peter Bunting at the time to be the first analyst at Daring Bunting and Golding. They had just acquired the unit trust portfolio from ISO Trust, and they needed an analyst to come in and analyze the equity portfolio. So I was actually brought in as the first analyst, and I was responsible for analyzing all the stocks on the stock exchange. At that time, we only had 20 stocks listed. But that's where my career started. And, I started there coming straight out of university, did a finance degree in London, a master's in finance, and joined Daring Bunting and Golding. And from there, got a great opportunity to learn finance, learn the business, learn investments. I went through the treasury unit, and then I eventually became responsible for strategic planning at Daring Bunting and Golding and the execution of the major projects there. And that led into the acquisition by Scotiabank. And I stayed on with Scotia after they acquired Daring Bunting and Golding as vice president for projects, strategic planning, and analysis, responsible for the analysis of all the off-balance sheet investments and the portfolio. And from there, I got the call, the ex-principals of DB&G along with Chris Williams were ready to start Proven. And, that was a no-brainer for me, having worked with them at Daring Bunting and Golding for those many years at the start of my career. And, was involved with Proven as a founder from the get-go, hired in as the chief investment officer responsible for analyzing all the investments in the portfolio as well as all the acquisitions along the way. During my time at Proven, which now we're at 15 years in at Proven, I have been responsible for also running Proven Wealth, which I was CEO between 2019 to 2022. And then after 2022, I rejoined Proven Management in the capacity as Deputy CEO. So I've been operating as Deputy CEO for the past 3 years, working very closely with Chris, and then now transitioning into the CEO role. So, it has been quite a ride, lots of growth at Proven over the past 15 years. And, I'm happy to take on this role, take on the mantle, and to take Proven to the next level.
So you're an OG over at Proven. You helped to build this company.
Yes, I was involved from the beginning. I mean, Chris actually called me, a few years before Proven started, and we worked on the business plan together, and then it just blossomed from there. So, yeah, so I have been involved from the beginning, and I have worked on every transaction, every deal, straight through the many acquisitions. It has been a very busy 15 years. I've had quite a few acquisitions, and now we're in the mode of just consolidating those acquisitions and getting down to providing returns for our shareholders based on what we have acquired and the trajectory of growth that we're on right now.
So does all of that experience, including the recent years as Deputy General Manager, does that prepare you Deputy CEO, does that prepare you to step into the CEO shoes, or does nothing ever really prepare you for that role?
Yeah, no, it does prepare me, and we do have a robust transition plan at Proven. So there is a process that we go through in a transition such as this. So yes, I did get quite a bit of added responsibilities as Deputy CEO, which has prepared me for the role right now. And along the way, as deputy, I was in charge of banking and wealth, for instance, which is the largest pillar under the group. So I've already been in charge of the majority of the revenue generating businesses that fall under Proven, and then being also in the role for the past 6 months or so on as CFO and head of finance, and overseeing operations and stuff. So yeah, so there has been a great learning experience and a great transition that we've had over the past 2 years, from Chris to myself in this new role, and then having the history, being there from the beginning, the 15 years of history, and knowing all the transactions and the deals. The transition hasn't been a huge one for me. So I mean, Proven is at my heart and soul, and I know pretty much live and die Proven every day. So
I'm sure bleeding black and white, huh?
Black and white, sure.
Looking at the past couple of years, it has been a challenging time for financial sector, both in terms of the numbers that the entire sector has been reporting, and for investors on the stock exchange as well. I'm looking at, I believe these are your most recent numbers. This would be 6 months ended September 30, 2024. Dip in net revenue from 30 million to 29 million. And then we're seeing a net loss of 1.8 million for the first quarter ending June 2024, which was down from almost $4 million profit same period in 2023. Now, what has impacted the company to the point that we're here, and what are you doing to turn things around?
Sure. So the macroeconomic environment has changed considerably over the past 3 years. So we've seen, beginning in 2022, interest rates globally have increased considerably. So not only in Jamaica, but the Federal Reserve in the U.S. has increased rates. The European Central Bank has increased rates. So we've seen rates between 2022 to early 2024. There was a significant increase in rates, and that has really affected the financial sector as a whole. From a net interest standpoint, the spreads have shrunk in terms of the spread between what you earn on your assets and your liabilities that reprice. So there has been an impact there. Also on the ability to trade securities. So an increase in rate means that your security, the value of your securities fall. So your ability to generate gains on a regular basis, which is a core income item for financial services businesses, has been hampered over the past few years. We've seen a turnaround of that since last year. So rates have come down, are on their way down. We've seen where the U.S. Federal Reserve has reduced rates over the last couple of meetings down to 5%. In Jamaica, we've seen where rates are falling. If the benchmark rate has fallen, BOJ has brought down rates. But if you look at the benchmark rate, which is the 30-day CD rate, in July of last year, that rate was over 10%. The last treasury bill, the last CD rate that came out was below 6%. So there has been a significant fall in rates locally, and this will augur well for the financial sector going into the rest of this year. Additionally, JMMB and our investment in JMMB is one of our largest investments, and they haven't been shielded from the effects of the macro environment. So their performance as well has been lagging and has affected our performance. And with the change in the environment and the change in rates, and we expect that the performance from JMMB as well as our other banks within the proven group will have a significant uptick going into the next financial year.
And speaking of that, I see a question from one of our viewers, Philip. Philip always coming with the good questions. What's the company's current outlook on JMMB Group, given your major stake and current position of the investment? Buying more?
Well, we're 20% owner, and we plan to keep the 20% ownership. We don't plan to increase it, and our outlook for JMMB is very positive. As I said, rates coming down, their spreads will widen. They're doing very well in Domrep, doing very well in Trinidad. Things are looking up for JMMB. JMMB is a 25% owner of Sagicor Financial Corporation, which has been doing very well and will continue to do well for JMMB as well. So JMMB going into next year will, based on our analysis, have a much better year than it has been having over the last 2 years.
What would you say are, well, that's good to hear. I like that optimism for JMMB, which means optimism for Proven as well. What would you say are the top 3 things that you would like to accomplish as CEO?
So the first is our focus right now is on our technology. So we want to be the leader in offering first world technology to the region, and first world technology linked to finance. So that is our number one focus right now. We're putting in our core system and rolling that out throughout our banking and wealth businesses across the Caribbean. And that will allow us to leverage technology and leverage the various apps and the various peripheral services that we can offer to our clients on this one platform. So first of all, that is it, to deliver a technology-driven financial sector entity. And then secondly, to hone in on our customers and their needs and their requirements. So we're not only in finance, banking, and wealth, but properties is a huge part of our business. So rolling in and having a holistic picture of the needs of our clients and having a one-stop shop, for instance, for your needs. So you come to Proven to save for your kids' college. You come in to save for a house. Once you built up that nest, you're able to buy one of Proven's houses and to have that holistic future of offering financial solutions for our clients. And then the third and the most important is just bringing those returns to our shareholders and our stakeholders, our team members, just delivering on the returns that Proven has promised and has delivered in the past. The last 2 years have been tough, but bringing us back to the days where the shareholders and the returns that the shareholders receive, and as well as our team members, is back to where we were before.
As you mentioned, the properties, Oren online wants to know. He says there's a luxury multi-story condo in Ochi called Sol Harbor. He wants to know if it's a proven property because it looks good.
Yeah, it is a proven property and it's fabulous. So it's two big towers that are going up in Ochi. One is fully sold, other they're both fully sold off. And once that property is done, it will be an iconic property in the Ochi area. So we're really happy with those. And again, that is for next year. That is another positive for Proven. We have quite a few properties in the pipeline that will be finished next year. So there's Sol Harbor, and there's also Bahari in Runaway Bay, which will be completed within the next financial year. And the returns on those investments and those sales will be booked within the next financial year. So we expect a huge positive from that as well.
What's the update on the one in Mandeville?
So the one in Mandeville, there are a few units left, but it's pretty much sold. But there are a few units left for sale.
Is it the construction is complete?
The construction of the apartment building is complete, a residential building, but there is also a commercial aspect to it as well, which has started construction and is expected to be completed within the next financial year or after that as well.
Okay, looking out for that because that's been a property. I live in Mandeville now, so we do see it all the time there over by Mega Mart, and always wondering, what's the status update on it. You made a point earlier about tech being one of your priorities as the new CEO. What specifically in tech? I can't even say really because you're not a bank, but what can your customers, your clients expect on the tech side? Or is it that it's something that you're going to be implementing internally for those who work with the company?
So we are a bank. So we do in Jamaica. We are Proven. There's Proven Wealth in Jamaica. So we do wealth management in Jamaica. But Proven also owns a bank in Cayman, Proven Bank.
Oh yeah,
and in St.
I forgot about that. You're right.
So the technology there, just changing the landscape of the financial sector within those territories is key for us. You're just introducing Apple Pay, introducing mobile banking, artificial intelligence, of course, with a personal touch, because that's what Proven is known for. It's personal touch and it's customer delivery and customer service. So, using the technology, but also bringing it with that personal touch is where we're headed.
All right, let me take some questions from our viewers. I see quite a few questions coming in here for you. Philip wants to know how many IPOs is Proven bringing to us this year?
Yeah, good question, Philip. Good question. So we do have two IPOs in our pipeline for this year. One of them very interesting. It's a regional entity. So yeah, you can look out for that from Proven.
Okay, very interesting. Next question comes from Learn, Grow, Invest, who wants to know what is Proven's focus in the market right now. Haven't heard much in a while, and they have a follow-up. Let me find the follow-up question. Where is it? Which business area? No, that's not the one. Which business area is Proven expecting to see the most growth over the next 12 months?
All right. I forgot the first question, but in terms of our business areas for growth, right now the banks, both in Cayman and St. Lucia, have been doing very well, and the profits and the returns from those entities we're very, very happy with. In terms of growth, we expect the growth to come from the wealth management side. So, with the change in environment, we expect that there will be a significant turnaround in our wealth management business. So that's really where we see the growth from the business right now and from our other subsidiaries within wealth.
The first part of the
Yep.
question was what's Proven's focus in the market right now? I think they're kind of the same question.
Right. Yeah. So I see you haven't when you say you haven't heard much in a while. So yeah, I agree. So over the past 15 years, we were on acquisition binge. So we acquired and acquired and acquired. Right now, the focus is on consolidation and just taking what we have purchased and maximizing the returns on what we have right now. That really is the focus of the company right now.
Question coming from Strong Link, who wants to know how is Proven positioning itself to cope with the impact of Trump's policies? Also, is the negative impact of the IFRS on JMMB's sub Sagicor behind us now?
Two very good questions. So, one thing that we can expect with Trump is a lot of volatility. We saw it yesterday, for instance. The tariffs were announced in the morning. The stock market basically, was down 2-3%. By 12 o'clock, we heard it was off for 30 days. The stock market recovered and was back in positive. We can expect during the Trump era, especially these first 100 days, that there's going to be a lot of volatility. Proven its position itself to be on the outside of this volatility right now. The riskiness of the market, the uncertainties in the market, the uncertainties in the geopolitical space. It's just a very uncertain time, and we're staying as liquid and as conservative as possible right now, given just the uncertainties within the market.
On the
In
point
terms
of
of
being
the
liquid,
IFRS on Sagicor, sorry,
yeah, answer
Kalilah?
that question first before I follow up. IFRS and Sagicor.
Yes, so the IFRS in Sagicor is, well, IFRS is IFRS. So um, the big hit that they had last year was the introduction of a new IFRS standard. So IFRS standards can change at any point in time. They're very unpredictable. So it's hard to say and to say definitively that that will never happen again. So, but where they are now, the hope is that there isn't going to be any big changes to any IFRS principles. Hopefully, soon.
All right, next question comes from, this is a good question. I've been hearing this question for a while, and following up on your point about being liquid and conservative, Dwight wants to know, when will Proven start to pay quarterly dividends again?
Very good question, Dwight. We have actually. So the past 2 quarters we've paid dividends, and and we have a board meeting coming up shortly. So hopefully we will continue paying dividends, but it's all dependent on the profitability, as you know, and cash flow. But yeah, we have resumed our dividends. We have started paying, over the last 2 quarters. So
Okay,
yeah.
Gregory wants to know, any major acquisitions on the horizon for Proven?
There's nothing in the pipeline right now, but trust me, we get deals and transactions across my desk on a daily basis. So we do take a hard look at all opportunities that are out there, and yeah, we never know. We may pull the trigger on one of them if we see a really great opportunity.
And speaking of opportunities, sorry guys, I have a flu and I'm a little bit irritated right now. Something, I don't know, a piece of dust catch me just now. So now my voice is irritated. Where do you see the company in 15 years?
In 15 years, that Proven, will be spread wider throughout the Caribbean, especially in banking. where we do have banking and wealth, where we do have our core competence, and in territories where we see a huge potential for growth, and where we can build out a proper operating capacity and be able to grow throughout the Caribbean. So really, that is really where I see Proven over the next 15 years. It's been a force to reckon with within the regional financial sector.
Any plans to expand Proven Bank, bring it to Jamaica and the region?
Well, as you know, the Bank of Jamaica hasn't issued any new banking license in forever. So if that opportunity arises, yes, that definitely is something that we would look at and be very open to.
And I'll take
But
this
yeah,
final
but there are
question.
opportunities throughout the Caribbean. Some of the Canadian banks exiting, so there are opportunities to acquire and to widen our scope in banking throughout the Caribbean.
I'll take this final question from Limitless Podcast. Would Proven consider taking a more active role in the management of JMMB Group?
So we are a 20% owner, and our participation at JMB is as a passive investor, and participation at the board level. So Narisha Parkinson, who is an employee at Proven, is our representative on the board, and we may get another board seat, but that's really the level of involvement in JMB that we have right now.
Okay. Well, anything else that you'd like to share with us before you leave, Johann?
No, I mean, thank you very much for having me, Kalilah. And just to say to investors, look out for Proven. It is one of those companies that, has built a solid track record within the financial sector. It is, a great dividend play for anybody looking for income within your investments, and the potential for growth, especially where the share price is now, is a good and attractive entry price, in our opinion. So yeah, so look out for it, and the investing public, it's a great investment.
Well, thanks, Johann. All the best to you and the team there at Proven. And I hope we can do some business again together soon.
All right. Yes, most definitely. Thanks for having me, Kalilah.
Awesome. So before we move on, it is time for our poll question of the evening. How do you feel about Fontana acquiring Monarch Pharmacy? I know how I feel. So here are your options. A, I'm excited. B, I need more info. C, how will this affect the stock? D, other. Just leave a comment. How do you feel about Fontana acquiring Monarch Pharmacy? Are you excited? Are you not so sure? You need more info? Are you wondering how this is going to affect the stock? Or other? Leave a comment. Let us know. How do you feel about Fontana acquiring Monarch Pharmacy? You can take that poll on the community tab here on YouTube. You can take it over on X, or you can just leave a comment in the chat and let us know, how do you feel about Fontana acquiring Monarch Pharmacy? Now we're moving on to our second interview of the evening. You might have heard this news here on Taking Stock or elsewhere in the media. They've been promoting it pretty heavily. Barita Investments just got an A+ rating from CARICRIS. CARICRIS is the regional credit ratings agency. So think Standard & Poor's and Moody's and Fitch, but for the Caribbean. That's CARICRIS. And they have now rated Barita A+. I don't know if it could get any higher than that. A+ sound like top of top. I'm not sure what CARICRIS's rating is. I know some of them go A++++. But CARICRIS is the Caribbean's leading credit rating agency. This is a big deal. It could open up new opportunities for Barita. And so joining us now is the CEO of Barita Investments, Ramon Small Ferguson. Welcome back, Ramon.
Hi, Kalilah. Always good to be here. How are you?
I am good, but not as good as you, coming on the heels of this news. Tell us what an investment grade rating means for Barita.
Sure. So, for us, Kalilah, I think the rating really does a few things. One is that it's another step in validating to our various stakeholders, whether it's our investors, our customers, all stakeholders really who face Barita, validating independently our financial strength, our risk management, and our governance. It really speaks to our stability and really adds credibility to our business because, of course, Caracris has independently come in, looked around, really done rigorous analysis of our business and decided to give us this investment grade rating. So it's a good thing all around for us. From our perspective, we think it may open up opportunities for us. For example, there may be opportunities for us to diversify and broaden our funding base. Caracris is a regional ratings agency. So what it's really done is set a standard for our business, for people even external to Jamaica to look on and have a sense of our level of creditworthiness. So I think it's a good thing for the business for sure.
So how do you plan to leverage this to raise further capital?
So, what I'd say is that, how I describe the business is that our inventory is money, right? We're in the money business in the same way that a manufacturing entity will take raw material and transform it into finished goods and sell it, right? Our business is really connecting money, right? So we always look at strategies to broaden and deepen our access to funding. So from our perspective, this really opens up those options to us. It opens up more glaring options in the region for us to raise capital, given that we have now been benchmarked. We have been no stranger to the capital markets, particularly since our acquisition in 2018. We have done several equity raises and we've done one bond raise as an entity. So with this rating in hand, we are really looking at our options to diversify our funding base. So you may see something come soon. Who knows?
All right. So just so you guys know, the rating scale for Caracris on the investment grade scale goes from A minus, A plus, then it goes AA minus, AA plus, AAA minus, AAA plus. So making our investment grade is a pretty big deal for any Jamaican company because it also has several levels below that. You have the B's and the C's and the not investment grade, what they call junk status. So it's a good move to see Barita being rated A plus by CARICOM. And Ramon, since Cornerstone's acquisition, Barita Investments, Barita has been on a really rapid growth trajectory. We've seen how far you guys have come in the past few years. Like, what strategies would you say were instrumental in achieving that growth? And how do you continue that? Because once you set the expectation for investors, they're going to expect that to continue.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd probably relate it to four things, right? It's a much longer list than four things, but I'll cycle through four real quick for you. So one is that very early out the gate, we decided to fortify the business with additional permanent capital. And so between March 2019 and September 2021, we would have raised over $34.5 billion in permanent equity, making Barita the largest securities dealer in Jamaica by shareholders' equity. So, of course, if we have more capital, we have seen the power of a capital infusion in transforming a business's circumstances. So that has certainly helped, right? We complemented the capital raising with an infusion of human capital. I myself was a beneficiary of that. I joined the business in April of 2019, and many of my counterparts have joined Barita in the post-Cornerstone era. We think we've built an excellent team here at Barita, and they have brought with them a breadth of experience, relationships that has allowed us to build new business lines. Our investment banking business, for example, is new and is a part of the post-cornerstone period, and that's $1 billion a year in revenue business for us now. And it also allowed us to expand existing business lines. So the team was another big pillar of our success. We also focused a lot on governance and risk management, right? So we got an A rating from Caracas from a credit rating, our credit worthiness perspective, that A+ rating. But we also moved our corporate governance score from CC pre-acquisition to A, right? And that is really reflective of the work that has been done to enhance the transparency of the business, to really infuse governance from the board level all the way down to the management level. And that has also been a critical pillar of our success. And we've complemented that with strong risk management. We have brought in excellent risk management talent. And we have also upgraded our policies and procedures. And we have an enterprise-wide risk management model that's overseen by our CRO, Jeffrey Romans. The final thing, which I think is apparent to the most apparent, is our brand awareness. We would have gone on a campaign to really socialize the Barita brand with the common person in Jamaica, and that has really broadened our customer base over the course of the last several years. We made it a point to really make investing accessible, and that appealed to a lot of people. So those four things: the branding, governance and risk management, the human capital, and the financial capital, I think, are at the heart of the growth that we've experienced over the last 6, almost 7 years post-Cornerstone.
So now you have, and on that point of, just people knowing who you are over the past 5-10 years, you guys have done an amazing job in getting the word out. For sure, your marketing team has been top tier. So now you have a strong capital base. You also have an investment grade rating. What opportunities do you see in emerging markets specifically? I guess like Jamaica, we're an emerging market that Barita is poised to potentially go after.
Sure. So there are a few things. I'd probably stick to 3. The first is we are naturally looking to continue to diversify the exposures in our business, right? We think we have solid assets on our balance sheet, and Caracas commented on the strength of our asset quality, right? But we're continuing to diversify those exposures, right, as a key risk management tool. So we're looking at not only diversifying by asset class, but also by geography. So we're looking external to Jamaica for opportunities, right? That's number 1. Number 2, we think that there are excellent opportunities that exist here in Jamaica, particularly as we move into what I think will be an unprecedented phase, or has the potential to be an unprecedented phase of growth in Jamaica's history. We have deleveraged as a country, right? Our debt has fallen precipitously, and we're now at a stage where Jamaica is very attractive, not only to locals, but also to international onlookers and investors. And there's a lot to be done here, right? There is a lot of infrastructure work to be done here. There are excellent companies that have the potential through funding to expand substantially, not only their Jamaica operations, but regional operations. And we want to make ourselves very capable to participate in those investments. So, having an investment grade credit rating does broaden the range of our own funding options, and it therefore gives us access to capital that we can deploy elsewhere. The third thing that I would say is that, from our perspective, it's not only access to new funding, but it's important to us to continue to strengthen the relationship that we already have. And we think a credit rating of such high quality is, as I said, another point of validation to our existing stakeholders who constantly assess our business, that listen, another third party has come and looked at the business and has adjudged it to be strong. Right? So it really adds to the trust factor. And as you know, that is a critical component in financial services. So those are the
Well, let
two
me
things.
ask you this, Ramon, as one of the leaders of the major investment firms in Jamaica. I hear people like you saying, "Oh, you have all this optimism. We've achieved all these macroeconomic achievements, reduced the debt by so much. There's so much opportunity." But when you look at the growth numbers, it just continues to elude us. Like,
Yes.
why isn't Jamaica as an economy as a whole growing? Because if I feel like it should be growing by now.
That's a good question, right? So I'll give you my perspective on the matter, and please, I'm no economist, right? But and it's a perspective that I shared at the JSA conference held recently. Growth is not incidental, right? It really is, especially when you're starting from a low base, right? It really requires a set of deliberate actions. I think from Jamaica's perspective, we now have an opportunity for growth, right? Given that debt is low, the government is credible, and again, there are a lot of investment opportunities here, right? Large scale investment opportunities. I think what will be important over the course of the foreseeable future is a real collaboration between the government and the private sector to organize and curate these investment opportunities so that they can get funded. Right? So, in other words, there are many opportunities to upgrade our infrastructure, our roads, our ports, our public and private real estate, to the extent that those opportunities are properly positioned and then acted upon. What will happen? There will be jobs, certainly a lot of jobs for locals, right? As our infrastructure improves, as our standard of living improves, there'll be increased interest from external to Jamaica, which is really where a lot of growth will come from. There are opportunities to improve on sectors that have been main staples for Jamaica, for example, our tourism sector, that could lead to increased tourist arrivals. And that's really where the growth is going to come from. So it's not going to be incidental where suddenly, because Jamaica has deleveraged, it just starts to grow. We have to, as locals, curate the opportunities that will in turn lead to and drive growth over time. So certainly Barita has a role to play there. We are excited. As I said, we're making ourselves even more capable to fund some growth. We have our thinking caps on in terms of curating opportunities that will ultimately lead to growth. The government has stated their openness and focus on driving growth in Jamaica. So from our perspective, it's really for us to translate all of that potential and capability into action, which will in turn lead to growth. That's my
Absolutely.
perspective. It's a high
Yeah.
level answer.
You guys have a tremendous role to play in driving that. A lot of people feel like, oh, it's the government that needs to drive growth. I
No.
feel like they have done their part in setting the macroeconomic framework, getting the debt down, and now it's up to the private sector to run with it, so to speak, bring in the deals, close the deals, bring in the opportunities, create the jobs, build the businesses, and fund the
Absolutely.
businesses. So we're
Absolutely.
looking out for that from you and others in your sector, Ramon.
Absolutely. We're ready and raring to go. And to speak for my counterparts, I think there are too. So bring it on. I mean, there's a lot to be done here in Jamaica. And I mean, the investment banking, the securities dealing sector is very ready to play our part in driving growth in this next phase. We definitely think the capital markets will be at the center of growth in this country over the course of the next several years, given the nature of the transactions that need to be done. We don't think the banking market can necessarily do it alone. There's a large role for them to play. But as you know, the capital market really brings that level of risk-bearing capital, the equity or the quasi-equity to projects that makes the bank lending, the senior lending possible. So we are ready and rearing to go at Barita. And I think my counterparts will say the same. So let's bring on the growth.
Ramon Small Ferguson says, bring it on. Let's bring on the growth. On that note, we go to our market recap and we have our analysts standing by. Time now for your January market recap. The combined index was mostly flat for the first month of the year. 129 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the month. 61 made gains, 62 lost value, and 6 stayed the same. 683 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $4 billion. Now let's see who had January's biggest gains. First Rock Real Estate USD was up 56% to open January at 4 cents US. Margaritaville Turks USD climbed 39% to start the month at 9 cents US. And Epley Caribbean Property Fund SCC was January's third biggest gainer. The stock was up 30% to start the month at $38. On the losing side now, JMMB 7% VR JMD CR preference shares was last month's biggest loser. It's down 22% to open the new month at $2.30. Mayberry Group lost $1.88 to open the new month at $7.59. And Mayberry Jamaican Equities fell 19% to open February at $9.05. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index was mostly flat in January. NCBFG was the most traded stock of the month. It lost 6 cents to open February at $2.33 TT. LJ Williams B shares was the TTSE's biggest gainer, up 8%. It opened the new month at 81 cents TT. On the losing side, Prestige was the month's biggest loser, down 10%. Over in the U.S., the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 were both up about 2% in January, while the Nasdaq was flat. At the pumps last month, the cost of 87 gas rose $1.07, and 90 was up 16 cents. Meanwhile, the cost of regular diesel climbed $5.93, and low sulfur diesel was up $6.12. In foreign exchange, the Jamaican dollar lost 93 cents against the US dollar in January, closing the month at an average $157.44 to 1 US. The JMD also weakened against the Canadian dollar, pound, and euro. It lost $1.66 on the Canadian, $4.18 on the pound, and $5.85 on the euro. Finally, on the crypto markets, Bitcoin prices were down 2% over the last 30 days, trading at $94,829 US on Monday. Ethereum, on the other hand, slid almost 26%, trading at $2,566 US on Monday. 12 months. That's all it takes to transform your finances with Money Mission Premium. For the next year, I'll guide you on the process to take your finances to the next level. You'll get my premium courses, monthly mentorship, and a great community of peers to help you on your journey. Go to moneymissionja.com. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.
Disclaimer. This is not intended as financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making investment decisions.
I can't believe my kids are so small when we were starting out this show. Ryan is going to be 5 this weekend. He was like in my tummy when we started taking stock. February is always just a special time for me when we reflect on how far this show has come, how much we have grown. And I can literally look at my kids and see, the time that has passed. Like seeing Nerissa in that clip just now, she was, I think, 1. I don't think she was 2 yet. I think she was 1 in that clip. And she's about to turn 7 this year. It truly is fascinating how things have changed. Can you believe COVID was 5 years ago? Like when I think about February, March is when COVID was, went on a lockdown and all that. March 2020. And it's now February 2025. COVID was 5 years ago. Trans-Jamaican Highway IPO was 5 years ago. Incredible. Let me take a look at some of the poll results. So we asked you, how do you feel about Fontana acquiring Monarch Pharmacy? Several of you said A. Uh, Samuel says excited. Fitzroy said A. A was excited. I see Kish saying he needs more info. Learn, Grow, Invest said E. E was not an option. What is E? So we had the options that A, you're excited. B, I think B was you need more info. C is you're wondering how it's going to affect the share price. D was other. So how do you feel about Fontana acquiring Monarch Pharmacy? And then also in response to the last question in the Barita interview talking about economic growth, Stronglink says there is a large informal economy that's not being captured in the growth stats. Look around and you see the impact. Number of cars on the road alone, OMG. Um, yeah, there is some truth to that. There's some truth to that. Let's get into our analyst section for this evening. Welcome back, Taking Stock analyst David Rose. Hi, David. Great to have you back.
Good night, Kalilah. Good to see you.
All right, so there have been a lot of changes in the financial sector, especially to the leadership. And we spoke to one just now, Johann Heaven, who's now taking over leadership at Proven. But there are several other changes as well. So, what is going on? What is this, I guess, power shift happening within the financial sector? And how should we as investors feel about all these changes at once?
So, the most recent, within the last week, in terms of announcements, would have come from CIBC Caribbean, formerly First Caribbean International Bank. So, they've announced now the retirement of 4 leaders across 4 territories to take effect this year. So, Nigel Holness and Mark McIntyre. Well, Nigel Holness is the Managing Director of CIBC Jamaica. Mark McIntyre is the Managing Director of CIBC Cayman, there to retire by May 1. Then Dr. Jacqueline Ben, who is the Managing Director for the Bahamas business, is going to retire on August 1. And Anthony Siraj to retire on October 31, which is the end of the financial year. Now, the retirements of leaders is an expected process, but to see the retirement of so many executive or so many senior leaders, all at once, signals a new heralded direction. And Mark Centillo, the current CEO of CIBC Caribbean, he said, that they're looking towards more country-led approach of the operations. And, they are appointing someone like Anik Dawkins here in Jamaica to lead CIBC Jamaica, which, is one of the fastest growing banks in terms of net loan disbursements during 2024. So on a year-over-year basis up to September/October, they were disbursed over $19 billion in new net loans on a year-over-year basis. And that was just behind Scotia, which is around $40 billion. And just for context, for today commercial banks, CIBC Caribbean Jamaica is basically number 6 out of 8. So for them to have the second highest year-over-year increase in new loans does tell you that they are taking a very strong direction. And this shift to these new leaders, it tells me 2 things in a sense that, one, they are looking to institute a new policy or focus at these particular levels across these particular jurisdictions, which are crucial. But it also tells me that, CIBC Caribbean is making this heralded change pretty quickly, because Monique French, who is currently Chief Credit Officer at CIBC Caribbean, she's going to become the Chief Risk Officer in May. She's actually a Jamaican as well. The other person who is currently in the role is going to retire later this year as well. So a lot of retirement is taking place, and saloons are put in place as well. So it's a good thing, because they're trying to aggressively grow in the Caribbean, and Jamaica is their mainstay hub. And then prior to that, January 27, you would have all heard about Perry & Gill's, move from the Bank of Nova Scotia Jamaica to NCB Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
That is quite, the move, because Perry would have gotten a promotion, back in November to have a bigger portfolio overseeing the, I would say the Central American and Caribbean markets, and to see him, go to NCB, it tells me that they are not joking, because we've seen what has happened with NCB Jamaica and
The money run, David.
Well, I don't think it's just money in Kalilah.
Made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Well, think about this with Kalilah. Audrey Towerhen, who is the current CEO of BNS Jamaica, she was at NCBJ for about 8 years, and then she went back to Scotia, and she became the CEO. And the portfolio she was managing was the retail portfolio, basically. And it's a portfolio that Perrin Gale was overseeing for the last 4 years after Audrey's promotion. So his movement towards NCBJ in the same position definitely tells you that he's, in my opinion, being poised for a higher role at the bank, because Bruce Bowen, who's a former CEO of BNS Jamaica, he's turning 64 this year. So with another year at best, he's 65, which is the normal retirement age for most entities. So my bet is that Perrin is actually going to become the CEO of NCBJ the next year or two, or even higher for the financial group. Think about Kalilah. You're talking about Scotia. You're talking about Scotia, Kalilah. The reach and depth that Scotia offers, not just in Jamaica, but across the region and across the Western Hemisphere, is pretty hard to beat compared to NCB Financial Group, which is mainly towards the Caribbean in particular. So that's just how I see it. And they would have brought on Sarah Banan Tangavelu from Hinduja to lead the IT division, and Sherry Martin got moved to becoming the chief operating officer. So all leadership changes, it definitely tells you that the heralded shift of new leaders is taking place, but you also can interpret it as another way of seeing that growth has to actually come from the younger generation. So we would have seen, Tanya Waldron going to take over from Taylor Lynn. We would have seen, Shirley Bridgman taking over at Caribbean Assurance Brokers. I'm thinking of other companies. So Ian Kelly become the CEO of Derrimon Trading Company. But in particular, in terms of the financial sector, these changes just tell me that things are going to be fixed up and they're going to change and definitely improve. Because NCB Jamaica, had a pretty tough year, all being equal. So while the nominal numbers are up year over year on profitability, don't forget that last year there are a lot of one-off expenses related to the departures of the former senior leaders. So when you look at that and you look at operational losses, look at the loans that were written off during the year, it was a pretty tough year for NCBJ, and they only wrote about $8.9 billion worth of new loans year over year net. So to see them repairing over a Scotia banker tells me that they are definitely playing with NCB.
And that's what I was just thinking to David, because for the most part, apart from Perrin, we're seeing the promotions coming internally. So the changes coming from people being promoted internally. But NCB recruiting Perrin from Scotia, which did those numbers in 2024, 2023, 24, that is significant, isn't it?
Definitely. You're talking about someone who would have overseen the growth of their mortgage book and a strong retail portfolio, because for BNSJ, they have about $80 billion worth of mortgages. For the overall Scotia group, they have about almost $100 billion worth of mortgages right now. They're more than a one-fifth of the, apologies, they're about one-fifth and above of the overall mortgage market in Jamaica. And back in 2020, they didn't have such a large presence and position in the residential mortgage market. And when you do check out Scotia's numbers and look at the non-performing loans and other figures, it's very good. Like, it's a very strong and quality book. And it's NCB would have brought on Dr. Carrie Hepburn Malcolm, who was in Trinidad before, but she was also a former Scotia banker as well. So,
and I say all of this, especially in the context that NCB shareholders have still been concerned about the share price. That's the strong link making a comment here. NCB's share price stuck at 50 plus, way below its highs of over $200. A return of dividends not yet impacting. Worrying.
But think about it, Kalilah. Let's be very practical in this whole sense. You're talking about we have gone through COVID, gone through inflation, having high interest rates, and apart from Guardian Holding being a bigger business as time progresses, the Jamaican business for NCB has been under pressure. You would have also seen the Cayman still not go through. They would have just had the leadership changes, and they'd had the APO recently, which would have been trying to shore up liquidity, but they're just a lot of different factors in that have not been positive towards the price. And even if you're talking about bringing back dividends go to all shareholders, but dividends are also a bigger windfall for the largest shareholder. So bringing dividends back might not seem like much to some people, some person's pensions, but at the same time, I don't think that's going to be the only catalyst to bring NCB Financial Group's stock price back up to astronomical levels, honestly, because NCBJ trading below book, cheap PE, all these other things. But when you compare it to a normalized year, let's just say probably 2022, which was the last normalized year for NCBFG, the numbers are not as positive as they should be. And the reality is they're in a tough space. Cap markets, which is their main growth engine, would have been under pressure from higher rates and reduced investment gains and so on. So it's pretty tough.
Yeah, so a lot has been going on in the market. And I think the trust factor as well, David, it's taking a lot for people to trust NCB again.
To be honest, it's a lot of things going on because some persons conflate NCBFG and NCBG as the same entity when they're not. But there are just a lot of factors, some that I've not mentioned, so far in this discussion, but there are just a lot of factors that, are on persons' minds, and we also shouldn't forget that persons are looking to get liquidity for other purposes. For some people are going to be like, why am I going to stay in this position when I can redirect capital towards something else? And the Uber saga, I've not had any updates on that whole development, but it's been a pretty tough time for them. But Chris mentioned that they're trying to steer the ship a little bit better. We've seen stronger governance through the appointment of several new independent directors. They mentioned that they're focusing on automation heavily. At the JC conference, they launched, I believe it was a chatbot, for NCB capital markets. So they're trying to do different things, but it's a tough scene.
Yeah. However, I still see optimism in the comments. I see Cool Cat saying, I think NCB is a good buy. I'm buying more NCB. Jason says NCB is a good buy, and now that it's cheaper, I'm just buying and waiting. Lanesra said, I will start trusting NCB at $48.
To me, Kalilah, opportunity cost is a hell of a thing. If persons are confident, go ahead, but just don't forget that there's opportunity cost of choosing one investment over the other. I'm not saying, not to buy or not to sell NCB. I'm just saying assess everything in context, because truth of the matter is, last year persons were saying NCB cheap at 70, NCB cheap at 50. If it's at 45 tomorrow, it's going to be cheap same way. So the opportunity cost for me, has to really be assessed, because even with the current dividend payments at 50 cents, which comes out to around 4%, dividend yield, there are other alternatives on the market giving similar or higher yields in this relatively high interest rate environment, which is still taking time to, come back down.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your perspectives this evening, David.
Only one last thing to add, Kalilah.
One more thing, go ahead.
The Agostine is, the Caribbean Distribution Partners acquisition of Massey Distribution Jamaica. That's quite a deal, Kalilah. Why? Caribbean Distribution Partners Limited is a joint venture between Agostines Limited, Trinidad Company, and Goddard Enterprises Limited, Barbadian Company. For context, Health Brands Limited is a company bought in 2023 August as Agostini's, and that was their first entry into Jamaica. And now to their joint venture, they're getting more Jamaican exposure. Goddard, they are the ones that own Fidelity Motors, which distributes Nissan vehicles in Jamaica. They also have, several other Jamaican businesses as well. With the fact that, we're seeing Agostini in particular increasing Jamaican exposure, it tells that, we might see a couple more acquisitions in the coming months. I'm looking forward to see what Massey is going to be doing in terms of its growing its Jamaican presence. There are more nuanced perspective because they mentioned that, one of the countries that they faced in terms of, making a decision was that the distribution portfolio is harder to scale out manufacturing or retail. Did you know that, the Hilo brand is actually a Massey business, Kalilah?
I thought Hilo was Grace Kennedy.
Grace Kennedy bought it from Massey in 1984. So the Hilo brand has to do under Massey.
It started as a Massey business.
Correct. And when Massey rebranded in 2014, they rebranded their Hilo stores to Massey stores. So I just came at this story to kind of show you that even if Massey didn't have to go through the tough period it went through in the 1980s, you probably still had Hilo, you probably would still be seeing, Massey distribution in Jamaica under the Massey portfolio in a sense. But I'm just putting this out that I'm putting this discussion out because we would have seen in a prior period, which was December 2022, Agostini's have acquired Collins Limited in Barbados, which also owns Kalilah Laboratories Limited. Kalilah Laboratories manufactures histotussin, Dica, Histol, all these famous drug pharmacies, Kalilah, they're manufactured here in the Caribbean. And Agostini's owns the manufacturer, and they own the distributor in Jamaica. And now they're going to own a business in fast-moving consumer goods. So I'm just showing this whole mix that it's quite, a set of developments by Agostini's because the portfolio for Kalilah Labs used to be issued by Massey up to January 1, 2024 when they moved it over to Health Brands. So I'm just showing you that Agostini's is just collecting Massey's business piece by piece. First took to Kalilah Labs, and then they're taking the distribution business now in Jamaica. So
interesting stuff. Thanks for the insights, David. We'll keep our eyes on those for sure. Let's take our final break and come back with your comments. Investing for beginners is for you if you've always been too embarrassed to ask what an IPO is or even what are stocks. No shame around here. Just a few years ago, I didn't know either. In this course, I break it down in very simple language. By the end of it, you'll be ready to open an investment account and purchase your first stocks. You'll understand how to make money on the stock market, and you'll develop a personal investment profile to guide your choices.
It taught me what to look for, when to buy a stock, how to buy a stock, what trends to identify to buy in a stock. That for me was the game changer.
Very simple, very easy to understand. You don't have to worry about not being able to understand because that's how easy she breaks it down.
If it is that y'all are interested in learning about investments or anything, I really suggest that you hop on that class, that master class, because the way that I look at money now and saving, I look at it different now.
So, are you ready to accept the mission? Click the button below to get started. Let's get this money. Welcome back. Let's see what the moneymakers are saying in the chat. Chat is always very lively. Blue collar, it seems that your fans and your friends miss you in the chat. They're calling you out this evening, blue collar. Let's see who else we have here. Learn, Grow, Invest saying kids grow really fast, saying that their son is now 4. Look at that. The time, where does the time go? Ryan said, want to know, when will Edufocal be delisted? The share price makes absolutely no sense, and they are making consistent losses. That's not a reason for them to be delisted, though, Ryan. Delisting comes when they consistently aren't filing their reports, doing their contractual obligations to the JSE. That can lead to delisting, but poor performance of the stock is not a reason to delist the stock. Stock prices go up, they go down. Like I always say, the world is a cycle. You win some, you lose some. I wouldn't say that that is a reason for Edufocal to be delisted. Strong Link says we need to get the main market going, but Trump's policies could impact us negatively. Well, the trade wars are on pause for now, fortunately. I see Mexico is sending, they said 10,000 troops to the border. But what did Canada ever do to the United States? Canada was big mad this week, but things have been averted for 30 days. So let's see what happens, what can be negotiated within these 30 days, because it was tariff for tariff, boof for boof between the US, Canada, and Mexico for the past couple of years. Strong Link noting COVID was 5 years ago, but its impact was at least 3. So yeah, you're right. So I guess that's why it doesn't feel like 5 years, because we kind of lost 2 years of our lives. It started 2020. That was the height of it, like the height of the scare, lockdowns, everywhere was deserted. You couldn't go nowhere. It was insane 5 years ago. Ryan saying that he always sees me and the kids in the supermarket. Hey, Ryan, next time you say hi. Probably you do. I say hi to a lot of people. God continue to bless you and the family, and continued success to Taking Stock Live. Thank you so much, Ryan. Learn, Grow, Invest says dividends alone can't do it for NCB when other stocks have higher yields, so there must be another catalyst for sure. I'm telling you, the trust factor was a really big one that hit NCB. X-Ray Design says NCB did in the dirt, and I cannot seem to separate NCB and NCBFG. They are all in the same barrel. On the other hand, Jason says the fact that NCB is getting dirt cheap and they're strong financially, their price to book value says they are undervalued, so lots of opportunity there. Who else we have? Sean Brown. Sean Brown is TJH gang, TJH crew. Sean says, all I'm saying, TJH looking really good right now at 409. And then Michael, bigging up David, the knowledge base. So yeah, keep your comments coming as we wrap up the show. You can always leave the comments, not just in the chat, in the live chat, but we also have a comment section as well. I'd love to hear what you guys think about everything we're talking about this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Yet another week. We have reactivated our Money Mission JA Instagram page, so you can follow us over there. Also, thank you for 100,000 followers on Instagram. It has been quite a run, 6 years in the making. We finally bust 100,000 on Instagram. And then I think we're now at 102. So that was last week. And we gained 2,000 new followers in just the past week, mostly because of that Petrojam story. I see that Trinidad government has responded as well. Interesting development. You know how I go with my opinions sometimes, but yeah. So what was I saying? Yes, follow our reactivated at Money Media JA page over on Instagram. We are seeking to grow that platform this year. We're going to be making a lot more efforts on the business side as opposed to my personal brand side, and building out, the business platform at Money Media JA. Of course, you can also follow me on all platforms at Kalilah Ray. Big up our Patreon. Thank you so much to our Patreon subscribers. You can go over to patreon.com/Kalilah Ray and support the show. Keep us on the air, keep us going another 5, another 6 years. We appreciate that a whole heap. Of course, like the video, that's the least you can do. Subscribe to the channel, share this information with a friend, send the video to a friend, let them know what is going on. And if you're interested in getting started with investing and you don't know how to start, go to moneymissionja.com and we'll sort you out. So until next time, I'm Kalilah Reynolds, and thanks for watching.